Since the dawn of time, man has been curious. And for almost as long, the Vibes Broadcast Network has sought the truth. Investigate, discuss, explore. Okay, maybe in other episodes, but this one is just listen to the vibes.
The views and opinions of our guests may not necessarily reflect those of the host or the Vibes Broadcast Network. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Listen to the Vibes. And I have here Mr. James Fox, and we're going to get to know him, and we're going to have a nice conversation. And I'm going to let you have the floor, sir.
All right. Well, hey, thanks for having me. I'm pretty excited to be on your show.
Thank you.
I think that we're going to get along, and we're going to talk about some really fun stuff.
Cool.
So, what do you want to know? Let's start there.
Start off, just let me know where you were born and raised and all those good things.
All right. Well, I am a native Californian. I was born in Central California and lived here all my life. I moved up to San Francisco for about 20 years. Went there for college, met my wife, started my business, hung out there until we had kids. And then it was I don't want my kids growing up with concrete and the one tree on the block. So, some things happened with the kids where I was like, yeah, I really want my kids to have my experience growing up, the dirt, the horses, the, chasing rabbits around in the weeds. So we moved back and live in the Sierra foothills now, pretty close to Yosemite National Park. So we actually just went kayaking through Yosemite National Park last weekend, and it was a blast. So
Wow.
They have the childhood that I envisioned for them.
Man, I haven't been to California since I was like 5 years old. And I do remember we went to Disneyland and we went to the San Diego Zoo.
Oh, it's two good things right there.
Yeah, my cousins lived up close to Hollywood, and I remember going outside with them in their little cul-de-sac, and you could see the lights and everything. Oh man, and California was gorgeous. Nice place to visit. I don't know if I want to live there though.
It's a great place. I love California. We've talked about moving a few times, and the conversation always kind of goes something like this. Well, where would you go? Well, if I'm not going to be in California, I don't really care. So, but we are facing some very interesting things here with the wildfires and just all kinds of stuff here in California. So the last couple summers, it has looked like an apocalyptic film here with the orange skies, the ash falling.
That's crazy.
But still, I love it. I wake up to it every day and love it still.
Man, yeah. Well, you were talking about living around San Francisco. I lived close to Houston all my life. And then I got remarried, and my wife's family and friends were all up around the Austin area. So I kept coming up here, and it was so beautiful. And it was away from all the refineries and all that. And you didn't have as much of, like you said, the concrete and buildings where we're at. It's nature. You see deer and rabbits. And I'd see a rabbit run across our yard almost every day. And we sit and watch all the birds and squirrels and all these little critters, and I love it so much up here. I wished I had been born and raised up here, but hey, we got here as quick as I could, I guess.
Well, we all get to where we need to go when we're supposed to be there. So if you'd grown up there, you probably wouldn't appreciate it. You'd be living in Houston now. So
yeah.
I love Austin. The bridge there with the bats.
Oh yeah.
It's beautiful. That's just a great town, fun town, good people. It's a good place.
Yeah, well, the surrounding area of Austin, you got all the hills and the country setting, the rivers, the lakes, everything. It's heaven to me.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, okay, so you went to where'd you go to school at? Well,
I went
college?
to the Academy of Art University in San Francisco.
Okay.
And majored in film with a dual major, directing and producing.
Oh, cool. So then you got into film and all that. So tell me about your projects.
Well, shoot, I have been the founder and CEO of my company, Dawnrunner Productions, for almost 20 years now. Getting really close. I think we're at like 17, 18 years now. we've done everything from, talking head corporate commercial videos up to feature films, TV pilots. We shoot all over the world. Won a ton of awards. It's been a fun ride. Not this last year. This last year's been interesting, but also pivoted last year and started a boutique press company that specializes in publishing sci-fi and fantasy novels.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that's been fun and that's kept us busy. I actually authored my first 2 novels this year, and I'm gunning for my third. It's going to be releasing here in about a month. September 21st is my publish date. So
Can you kind of give us a little hint of what it was about?
oh, sure. Yeah, it's a Martian revolution set 200 years in the future.
Oh,
And it's a kind of a hard science look at kind of an ensemble cast of characters and what mankind's first real fleet-on-fleet action in space is going to look like. So I spent about a decade researching advanced technologies, talking to physicists and astrophysicists and engine specialists to say, look, if I was going to have a dogfight in space, what would that actually look like? And got a lot of really great information. I put together a like an 85-page like dossier on how to fight ship to ship in space, including like boarding tactics and everything. Wound up being very like 14th century naval warfare, which is pretty cool. Like disabling ships, boarding them, taking them over because they're so big and costly to make that it's better to take over and then integrate it into your fleet. So it follows a multitude of characters across both sides of the Civil War, and kind of like the page 1 basically starts with the catalyst for the revolution, and then we kind of uncover this conspiracy and a lot of human greed and jealousy, and it's pretty fun. It's called the Soul Saga. Book 1 is called The Revolution, and book 2, which drops in September, is called Retaliation.
oh, sweet. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. I grew up reading like Isaac Asimov and things like that, so I love that kind of stuff.
You might like it then. I'm not going to say you will, but you might, because I've been inspired by all those guys myself. So,
Well, those books that, like you did all that research and it's feasible, that's the kind of stuff I like. Of course, fantasy stuff that's way out there, it's cool and everything, but like when they redid Batman and it made it seem like you could really do that. That's
Right.
the kind of movies I love. Even like iRobot and things, it seems like that stuff could really happen. So yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah, what I did was I wanted to write a story where science fiction wasn't the story; it was just the setting, right? So the characters are very human; they're very flawed. They go through struggles. Dare I say, even a little bit angsty at times. But I took basically a military story that could exist in, American Civil War, American Revolution, World War I, World War II, Vietnam. Any of those, all these characters could fit kind of in the same place. It's just they're shooting, caseless kinetic rounds instead of, 7.62 rounds. I mean, it's or musket balls. You're just changing the technology that they're using and the names of places, not and how they get around, I guess. But science fiction isn't a story; it's just a setting. So it's pretty fun. I enjoyed it.
Oh, anything science fiction. I'm into that kind of stuff. So yeah, that's right up my alley. Going back, you said you make commercials and things too.
I do, yeah.
So we see these commercials all the time, and I don't know how many people actually sit there and think about what goes into making a commercial. I mean, I think it's goofy things like that all the time, but that's the way my mind works. So kind of take me into what it's like making a commercial.
I mean, it could be a really, really good experience. It could be a really, really bad experience too. I think the big thing is, what are you shooting? So one of the things I love to share with people is if you're ever on set that's shooting food of some kind, don't ever eat it because it's covered in like enamels and glue. I mean, it's what the people who do the product placement stuff are artists. So yeah, just don't ever eat anything on a table that's being photographed ever. Uh, but I think one of the most difficult or challenging shoots that I was on had 3 company moves in a day. So we went to 3 totally different locations in San Francisco in one day and had to shoot 3 separate commercials for the same company all in that one day. And that was a Golden Gate Park shoot, which is tricky because there's so many people. Trying to control that space is tough. And then we were in an apartment, and then we were shooting on a city street there by Golden Gate Bridge. So yeah, it's just my goodness, it's hectic, it's fast paced. I've always worked with amazing crews, so having a good crew is kind of like mission critical. If you don't have a good crew, it's going to be a real pain.
Right.
And then for me, I'm a director, so for me the challenging part is trying to keep everything in your head all at the same time. I need to know what shot this is, what's coming before it in the edit, what's coming after it in the edit. We shoot it all out of order, so it's not like you're following in this linear progression of how you see the commercials, how we shoot it. We shoot the in shot first, we shoot the middle next, and then we shoot the beginning at the end the next day. So try to keep all those moving pieces in my head at the same time and have them make sense. It can be a little tricky. It's fun though, especially if you want to work your butt off for 48 hours. It's a lot of fun. I prefer the like feature film and TV show production. It's still fast paced and still intense. It's just I have the story there to kind of as more like guide rails. So I'm actually set to direct 2 feature films. I'm supposed to do it this last year, but because of COVID, we got pushed off. Hopefully this year. And I'm excited about that. It's going to be my first horror films, which is going to be fun. So
that's something else up my alley there.
All right. Well, these are pretty cool. Pretty excited about them. I get to be in a swamp for a few weeks. I don't really like snakes, so I'm a little bit nervous about that.
Snakes, I hate snakes.
Yeah, why is it always got to be snakes? Yeah.
Wow, a horror movie.
Yeah.
I got a buddy of mine that he's doing a horror movie. It's called Demon Fighter, and I don't know how far along they've got. It's an indie film, and I know they've had a lot of setbacks with the COVID and all that stuff, but I'm very excited to see that. These guys make they're not like high production because they have such a lower budget, so you don't get all the special effects and stuff that you get in a normal film, but they stick to a story, and I really appreciate that. And I love special effects, don't get me wrong, but the story's got to be good or I lose interest in the movie real quick. So how do you kind of integrate the two?
I mean, it really depends. So I try to have everything follow story. So for me, story is king. If something's not motivated by a story, I don't put it in. And that's everything from like nudity to special effects or visual effects. A lot of times producers will be like, where's your explosion? You're on page 50, you need an explosion. And I'm like, okay, but we're in the middle of a swamp. What's going to explode? Like a random gas pocket, methane pot? Like, I don't know. It's just too weird. So for me, everything follows story. If the story doesn't justify it, I don't put it in.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's now if it does, then great. I lean into it fully. And if that's the idea, if they hit a methane pocket in the swamp and a spark sets it off and there's a huge explosion, give me the biggest explosion you can. I will always try to lean towards special effects, like real life practical effects over visual effects if I can. But a healthy blend, I think, is important. So really, it's just, for me, it's fun. And the producers on set are kind of like my parents. I kind of go to them saying, hey, mommy, hey, daddy, how much fun can I have with this shot?
Oh my gosh. Well, I was saying about the special effects. I'm a big Star Wars nut.
Me too.
Then they came out with the last 3, And it started out, I thought it was going to be good when it first started. And the special effects were great and everything, but then they lost the story.
Yeah.
You know, you had like Finn. I thought they should have been more of a story about him. I mean, you got a guy that just left the stormtroopers, and here he is, you know, fighting against them. There was more story there, and they just kind of let him go flat.
Yeah, I love Star Wars, and I think one of the things that made the original film so successful is the story is relatively simple, right? It's a like sacrifice redemption story, right? At its core. I have no idea what the core of the new films is.
Exactly.
Like every character is so complicated. Every arc is so muddled. I in watching the films, I'm like, besides basically watching a worse version of the original 3 films retold with a new cast, I don't know what's happening. Like I don't know who to root for. I love Rey. I think she's a great character.
They didn't develop her right though.
But yeah, and so it's very complicated, and you know, like I'm probably going to get canceled from, you know, the Star Wars, like, you know, diehards, but you know, my thing is like, I feel like a lot of times we're such a smart audience now. You know, us movie watchers, we're so smart now. Like, we understand tropes, we understand character arcs, we understand story, and so I think what happens as filmmakers, we, especially with series, we send out our baby, right? And we think we're so clever, and we're doing all these cool things, and then the audience gets it right away. Reddit goes nuts, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, Rey is Luke Skywalker's daughter, you know, long lost daughter or whatever." And I feel like a lot of times, I don't know if this is true, I have no empirical evidence to back this up, but in my gut, I feel like somebody's in a back room working on a draft of the next film, and they go, "What? They figured it out? Well, forget that. I got to be smarter than them." And they change the story. By the time you get to the third movie, you're like, "But what was all the deal? What was the deal with the lightsaber? What does that have to do with anything?" You know, it's same thing with Finn. It's like they you know, because the audience is so fast and social media is just lightning quick with everything, all these theories get out there. Fans put little pieces together so fast, and you're like 1 or 2 writers against an army of million rabid fanatics. They're going to figure it out. So I feel like there's a lot of that. There's a lot of misdirection. There's a lot of, I need to be more clever than you so that everybody's surprised. And I don't necessarily think it's an ego thing. I think it's just you don't, you know, as a filmmaker, we want to surprise our audience. We want them to take something away from the film. If everybody knows that what Rey is, then they just go, see, I was right. And that's it. So there's a lot of that. I mean, it's not the same medium. Cinema is not the same medium that it was in the 80s.
Right.
So it's just tough, man. It's a tough business to be in.
Well, they changed directors, and they even admitted that they really didn't know what the ending was going to be until they finished the film.
Right.
And you know, you had a good character. I don't have a problem with the female having a strong lead in a movie. I don't. But develop the character. You know, make her go through trials and stuff to learn ways of force, not just automatically know how to do everything. That's ridiculous.
Or if she does, why?
Thank you. There's got to be I have to have a why.
Right.
It just ain't just because. I need a why.
I personally loved that she's this awesome fighter, like she does all this stuff like instinctually. I watched it and I was like, who is Rey? What is going on? This is awesome. Because what I didn't want to see again is the like dorky young kid becomes a Jedi, you know, blah, 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 fights evil. The Luke Skywalker arc. We've seen that already. Show me something different. So the fact that Rey like starts off as awesome and is like doing mental force battles with Kylo Ren and winning. Why?
Exactly.
Like, explain it to me. And I don't buy their ending, you know, like it just, I feel like it was just a cop out at that point. They like made this, it's like the Superman syndrome, right? Like A character that's indestructible, like immortal. What do you put him up against? You know, like,
Yeah.
What's the arc? So, yeah, it's tough. But I try to take that into account with all of my characters. That's one of the reasons why I like flawed characters so much. And in my book, like, one of the things I really wanted to do was I want my villains to be one good decision away from a good guy, and my good guys one bad decision or mistake away from being a bad guy. So because that's a very human story, you know, we're all just one mistake away from being a villain in our own story. So
I like that idea. You know, you've got that fork in the road. Go this way, go that way, instead of, you know, like you said, just automatically being perfect, and all that's ridiculous. We're not perfect.
Yeah.
I don't walk on water.
I've tried. It doesn't end up very well.
Always end up wet, right?
Always end up wet.
Okay, so you've made these movies. What movies would I recognize? Because I sometimes I know about the people behind it, and sometimes I don't.
That I've worked on. So the biggest one that I've worked on is called The Darkest Matter. It's a sci-fi film. It's kind of a futuristic take on Lord of the Flies, if you remember that book where the kids get stranded on the island. So in my debut sci-fi film, kids get on a colony ship, gets there's an accident, and they get on a escape pod. That escape pod gets damaged, and they wind up marooned on an abandoned space station. And antics ensue, and the kids kind of take over, and you get these like two warring tribes, and one tribe is trying to stay on the space station because they like it, and the other tribe's trying to get rescued. So kind of a neat take on kind of a futuristic Lord of the Flies. So
okay, well, I'll be honest with you. I mean, my wife and I just got rid of cable, and I mean, we have some streaming services, but honestly, the way movies have been going lately, I've lost interest.
Sure.
And I watch YouTube. I mean, I see people make film worthy stuff on YouTube.
Yep.
And they have a great story behind them. It may not be the most perfect story, it may not be the perfect special effects and stuff, but it has a great story. And I'm really looking forward to bringing an actual story back. Make me want to go see the movies again. I mean, I've lost interest in Marvel, and I mean, I was all in when it first came out. Iron Man came out. I was like, this is the coolest movie in the world. And then when they got up to like Doctor Strange, and like Doctor Strange has been one of those characters I've loved since I was a kid, the mystic arts and thing. And now all of a sudden it's just kind of, I don't know, it's going away from the story and the feel of what Marvel is. It's like they I don't know. I don't want to get into the political part of it, but it's what it seems like it's getting into.
Sure.
And I've lost interest. I want to be interested in movies again.
I stopped watching after the first Avengers. After the first Avengers movie, I was like, all right, that's it. I'm not watching any more superhero movies. Because at the end of the day, the superhero movie arc is kind of the same. It's kind of the same every movie is kind of the same thing. There's the good guy who's troubled and the villain, and they've got who's trying to dominate the world or destroy the world or whatever the world. And then they deal with their own issues and then defeat the bad guy at the end. Cue up the sequel with the next bad guy. It's just like it's a rinse repeat kind of thing. And it works great in comics. Big comic book fan, because you get these huge 100 graphic novel length story arcs. So you get into the complexities of their emotions and their personal struggles. And you just can't do that in the film. You got to erase all that. So it just becomes the plot. This guy versus this guy, the end. I don't know. I hope that we're going to see. The problem is, as long as Marvel movies are making millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, they will keep making them.
It's the same formula in each one of them now, and it's just it's boring. I have no interest. I mean, I have to admit, I've been kind of excited to see what that Shang-Chi is going to be like. Because I mean, he's one of those obscure characters. I remember reading a couple of comic books of his, but I wasn't like a huge fan. I knew who he was. I'm like, oh man, that's that kind of Bruce Lee kind of movie. I'm not sure. I'm just not sure. I don't want to invest myself in something I'm not going to enjoy.
Sure. I mean, I'll put you this way. I do screenwriting as well. I've kind of my career, like I'm directing and writing more than anything else these days, doing a lot less producing because I've connected with a couple amazing producers and they do a great job. And I could never do a better job than them. So I let them produce. But every day, just about every day, I get asked for superhero movies every day.
Really?
At least once a day. Sometimes two, sometimes three. You know, do you have any spec scripts with original superheroes? Every day.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, this morning, the one that I got was dark comedy superheroes in the vein of Deadpool. So, you know, I'm like, okay. But the demand is just so high for that right now that everybody is floating superhero ideas and superhero movies. So
I think they're on the way out, and it's not because, you know, people don't like the comic book heroes. It's just the movies aren't any good anymore.
yeah, well, we've all seen them all. Like,
Mhm.
you know, it's the same movie over and over again, basically.
No,
So
I did fall in love with that first Deadpool movie. That was
oh yeah,
that was so freaking cool. And I mean, I loved the dark comedy that was, you know, the theme through the whole movie. You know, I was okay with the second one. It wasn't as good as the first, but you know, I want to see obscure characters. I want to see them developed and, you know, have as close to the comic book as you get. I hate that they steer away from the actual stories, but
yeah,
you know, they've got characters out there that can really make a good movie out of, and they're just not doing it, and they're giving you crap. I'm sorry, but it's what it is. They're just giving you crap.
yeah. I think the best way I had it explained to me was Hollywood is just regurgitating and gorging itself and regurgitating and gorging itself and regurgitating over and over and over again.
It's what
So
it feels like.
but independent film is in a place where it has never been before. I mean, you can go out. Most of us have 4K digital cameras in our pockets,
Mm-hmm.
and people are making amazing stuff independently. So I'm a big proponent of independent film. I love shooting indie. You know, obviously, I'd love to get a $200 million budget to go have fun with, but you know, I also just I love being scrappy. I've got a $20,000 comedy that I'm trying to shoot right now because of COVID. You know, there's like 5 of us top to bottom. It's kind of a mockumentary thing about Bigfoot, and you know, working with 2 writers and a director who are hilarious, and the writing on it is phenomenal. You know, and I just am like, if we could do this, other people should be doing this. So
Right.
yeah.
Do you have like Bigfoot experts working with you?
Not on this. This is just a comedy. Yeah.
Okay, I was fixing to say I can get you hooked up with some people in the Bigfoot world, because
Yeah.
I'm a paranormal investigator myself, so I'm into
Oh, right
that
on.
stuff.
Oh yeah. I dabbled in the paranormal in high school. Had a really crazy experience that scared the absolute hell out of me. Have a healthy respect for it now and stay as far away from it as possible.
I don't know. I'm that guy that if something happens, I'm running to it. So I'd be the first one to die in a movie.
Yeah, I have that bone in my body too. But and in this high school experience, like you know, I learned a lesson about the paranormal, and I just said nope. If I find out a place is haunted, I'm going to stay away from it. So
Well, we went to one, and there was supposed to have been something up in the attic, and I climbed up there and I told him, "Hey, put the hideaway stairs up." I sat there for 2 hours, basically talking to myself in the dark. But you know, I'm a dumbass.
you know, I don't think it's dumb at all, right? It's the question of why, you know. Why do we collectively as a species over the course of so many tens of thousands of years do we believe in ghosts? Like that's a kind of a weird random thing to come up with, right? Like something happened somewhere and continues to happen, you know. So I don't know. I believe and I believed even before this crazy stuff happened to me, but The reason I believe is because our understanding of our existence is so infinitesimally small that the likelihood that there is something beyond this mortal coil, it far exceeds the chances there's not. I mean, if this is it, that's very limited. Like, universe and dimensions are all infinite. So if that's true, you're telling me that in that dual infinity, there's no such thing as an afterlife? Come on.
Thank you. Well, I'm that curious person. If you had to describe me, I'd be that little kid always going, but why? But why? But why?
You get along with my kids then.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet?
Oh.
So what's it like being a dad and then having all this stuff that you have to do all the time?
It's awesome. I have to stop my kids from reading my novel over my shoulder. I'm never sure what section they're reading. There's some violence, there's some cursing, so I'm always like getting that weird feeling. I'm like, hey, go away. What are you doing? And then, they love being involved in the process of, working pre-production on the films, and, we're gonna, we're talking to the actors and telling them about their characters and things we're doing. My kids are sitting right there listening. If my producers are watching, I'm trying really hard not to violate my NDA. I'm sorry in advance. They're my kids. What do you want me to do? But yeah, it's super fun. And when I travel, when I go away for 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, overseas or whatever, usually the plan is to try to bring the kids along. At least for part of it. That's one of the benefits I see of having someone in the film industry is the travel, right?
Right.
So getting my kids exposed to foreign countries and all that stuff is part of the plan. So the book tour stuff is usually, with COVID and everything, it hasn't been much of that. I've just started going on some book tours. That's usually so busy that I don't bring the kids along. But it's usually like 72 hours of like nonstop signings, talking, and drinking, and that's about it. Like, there's no food, there's no sleep, so it's a lot of fun. It does get very tiresome.
Yeah.
I'm 42, and it's starting to take its toll. I used to be able to go a day or two without sleep, and it didn't slow me down. Now, if I'm not in bed by 8, I'm doing one of these.
Yeah, I'm with you. Well, it's good that you have your kids involved, because a lot of people get in the industry and their kids kind of get left out, and it's good that you bring them. They get to be on set, they get to see what you do, and then they're experiencing different things, especially other countries. I wish that I had been able to do that growing up. I wish I could have done that for my kids, but you get to be a parent, and some of us get so busy we kind of forget about our kids, and you haven't done that, so I commend you for that.
Well, I COVID has been a really, really tough thing, and I don't want to diminish how terrible it's been.
Yeah.
But I was really, I always try to see the bright side of everything, because there's so much darkness in the world. If you focus on that, it's very depressing very quickly. So I tried to look at the bright side of what COVID, did, and I got to spend a whole year off teaching my kids, kind of being their substitute teacher all year. My wife got on me because day one, when we pulled them from school and we decided we were going to keep them home, I didn't know what to do. I was like, well, I don't have a syllabus. I don't know what they're learning. I'm going to teach them what I know. So I took them outside, and I'm Native American. So we went and found clay. We found a clay deposit, went hunting for clay, and then fired our own ceramic furnace.
Wow.
And I taught them how to make bow drill fire and straighten arrow shafts and chip away arrowheads. And I was like, this is what I grew up doing at your age. And then, my wife comes outside and she's like, okay, so let me get this straight. Day one of daddy teacher, you teach our California wildfire country children how to make fire. Yeah. Oops. Probably wasn't smart. but they, they loved it. And that's not something you really learn in school. I like 2 days later, we got like 60 Amazon packages of, textbooks and kids curriculum. And, my wife was like, no, just teach them math, teach them English. No more fire building out in the backyard.
Well, I'm not gonna lie. I'm glad my kids have already graduated, and some of them have their own families, and I don't have to do all that stuff. I don't envy them at all. My grandkids, I guess, are about the age of your kids, and oh no, thank you.
In hindsight, it was crazy, but in the moment, I had those 2 films scheduled. I was planning on being gone like 16 weeks out of the year at a minimum. For just travel for work. And instead I got to spend the entire year basically, I've got 100 acres, just riding horses and teaching my kids and hanging out and spending time. For me, it felt like a really long vacation.
Yeah. That part I'd be cool with, but the teaching math and English and all that, no, thank you.
Well, the new math is so weird. It took me forever to learn how to do this new math I was just like, I don't understand. 4 + 10 is 14. I don't understand why you have to do all this other stuff. Yeah, it's very strange, but
I'd do good at the recess part and lunch, but the other stuff.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wish we had done a little bit more of. Like once we got into the actual school, by the time we finished for the day, I'd realized, oh man, we didn't go outside, and plus with the wildfires and stuff, like the air quality was just so bad. They did a lot of indoor time. We played a lot of Minecraft too. So,
yeah,
I got to play some video games too.
The youngest grandson, well, my oldest daughter's youngest son, he loves Minecraft, and I don't understand any of that stuff. So, Papa sucks at video games.
Well, I suck too, but I still try. It's like I tell them all the time. It's like, well, 30 years ago, I could play video games as good as you do. Not anymore, though.
Well, they get into those games where they do the shooting and stuff, and I don't know how to arm the gun and aim it, and I can't walk straight. I'm always walking into walls, so I let them win. I lose. I don't care.
Well, I'm doing one of these the whole time. Wait, hold on. Wait, I got to answer this work email. Hold on. So it's not really fair.
In my day, we had a joystick and a button.
There you go.
That was it. I don't know how they do all those different buttons and crazy stuff, but
yep.
Hey, that's what they like to do. That's what they like to do. I just like spending time with the grandkids.
Yep.
I get to spend time with them that I didn't get to spend with my own children. And
yeah,
you regret that, and I'm glad that you're getting to spend time with your kids. Enjoy that, and keep that in your memories forever.
Thank you. Yeah,
you don't get it back.
Yeah, I luckily my wife is always on me of let's make a memory today. Every day, let's make a memory today. So, and I always say in the back of my head, let's try to make it a good one.
That's awesome. I wish I could see more dads like you. That this world would be a better place. You teach them right, man.
I do the best I can, and I tell them all the time, I don't know what the right answer is here. All I can tell you is what I would do. And one of the things my kids love to parrot back to me is I tell them a lot, when you're my age, you'll get to boss me around. I promise.
You'll be changing my diapers one day.
This will be your house, and you'll be saying, when you live under my roof, Dad, you do what I say. And they love that. So, yeah. I mean, kids are great. And, like I don't know, just try to inspire the next generation, and I try to do that with my career. And I've worked on some like summer film camps with kids, teaching them filmmaking. A couple of those kids have gone on to do great things in the film industry, which is awesome to see. So, I got into filmmaking to make the world a better place. I think that storytelling is the most powerful tool in our toolbox to building bridges of empathy, right? Like if I tell you a story, hopefully if I'm engaging enough in that story, you empathize with me and you put yourself in my position and wow, that sucks, or wow, that must feel really good. And if I can do that, I can change your heart. That's why I got into filmmaking. Let's make the world a better place with our films and our stories. That's the whole point to storytelling. So, anyway, so I just, everything I do, I try to attach making the world a better place, one little step at a time to it.
Oh, thank you for that. I'm going to kind of put myself out here a little bit, but ever since I started doing podcasts and videos and I got into the editing part of it, I really enjoy that. And I'd like to go further with it, as like getting into TV or movies or something. I mean, there's just something about putting those stories together and taking out what you don't need and all that. And it's an incredible process, and you get to be in the middle of it. I envy you, man. I really do.
Start making films. You got a phone, right? Get your grandkids and start doing stuff. What I tell people all the time, if you want to be a filmmaker, start making films. So just there's an incredible amount of data on like YouTube for tutorials on how to make movies. God, there's all kinds of podcasts I could drop, but and DIY channels, and but just jump up there and type filmmaking or beginner filmmaking. There's so much information. I've spent a lot of money on film school, and you can get a better education in probably 2 or 3 days of watching YouTube videos nonstop.
That's how I learned how to edit. And I learn something new all the time. It's a never-ending process, and it's fascinating to me. Just to be a part of that process would be amazing. Okay, I'm going to ask you I guess it'd be a basic question, but people are going to want to know who's like the best actor you've ever worked with.
Oh, the best
your favorite
favorite actor I've ever worked with. Jeez. That is a difficult question to answer because every project is different.
Right.
So, like, are they a good person? Were they a phenomenal actor? Was the character cool or the project cool? Shoot. I will say that from a just like holistic approach, I'm very, very excited about the cast of the upcoming horror film that I'm working on. I haven't even got to really work with them on set yet, but already the chemistry is there. We're already like coming up with new things. There's already an energy to the project that is just incredible. We actually got to meet for the producer's birthday. It was the first time we actually got to meet face to face, not just a phone call or a Zoom call because of COVID. And like already it was like, hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you. Okay, I've got all these great ideas. I think top to bottom, the film I'm most excited about is probably the Flesh Off the Grill film that I'm shooting sometime this year or early next. Then, as far as talent goes, and who I was most impressed with would have to be Vinny Guastafaro, and he runs the sport of acting in LA. He teaches actors, and I know why, because he's a badass. He's incredible at it. He understands character and he has no fear. He feels the set in a way that I don't think I've ever seen in another actor ever. To the point where I was producing on the thing that we worked with. I was watching the director go take notes, and then Vinny would like all of a sudden start doing, and he'd go and scratch it out, and because he was already doing that, because Vinny felt that it needed to adapt and change and overcome, and he's just a great individual too. So he and I have remained friends after the shoot, and just an amazing guy. And so much talent in one person. So, my answer would kind of be cheating, The cast of Flesh Off the Grill, I'm very excited to work with. But then my probably overall favorite would be Vinny.
Oh, okay.
So big shout out to Vinny.
Okay, there you go. I hope he gets to see this.
I hope so too.
And he can bring me on board. I'll act for him.
Hey,
To be or not to be.
you should look into the sport of acting. I actually sat in on one of his classes, and just he understands the art form in a way that I don't think many people do.
I'm a great actor because I act like I know what I'm doing all the time.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I've had a lot of actors come on this podcast, and I'll say one that's kind of near and dear to my heart is John Asuna, and he's got the world record for like the fastest punch in martial arts, and
Wow.
He's a stunt coordinator. He's worked with Keanu Reeves, and he's going to be in the new Venom movie, but he works with an organization that helps people that have been like in sex trafficking and stuff like that, and it's something that's kind of really touched me, and those kind of people they stand out.
Yeah.
And okay, maybe he's not as well known as Keanu Reeves is, but the guy is awesome, and those are the kind of people you want to see really make it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But our time is drawing to a near, and
Already?
Yes, and I want to thank you for coming on the show. I know we kind of had some bumps in the road to get here, but we did.
Well, not having power makes it hard to have this, right?
Exactly. But your time's appreciated. You got a great story, and
Thank you.
I'm glad that you're a good dad and a family guy, and that means a lot. So I hope that inspires anybody that's watching or listening. You should aspire to be like James Fox is. I want to thank everybody that watches, everybody that listens. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. There's lots of wonderful guys like this that I know you would enjoy listening to. And if you're a regular listener, thank you for the support. Please spread the word. Let's get some more people to subscribe and to watch so we can get a positive message out there. And guys, until the next one, as always, peace.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of Listen to the Vibes. You can catch us on Buzzsprout or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, and on YouTube. Follow us on Facebook at The Vibes Broadcast Network